Welcome to the Story Learning Podcast, regular doses of language learning tips and motivation to help you become fluent in any language. With me, Olly Richards. For language programs, books, free resources, and much more, visit StoryLearning.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is the I Will Teach You a Language podcast, the place you need to be every week, twice a week, to get your regular dose of language learning tips, advice, and inspiration. A lot of you guys really enjoyed the last episode with Lindsay, I think, when we got into language education and things like that. Some really interesting comments coming out in the show notes as well. If you guys want to follow along, you can go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/episode 123. And some very interesting discussions going on there. You guys are, this is something we all care about, right? Languages in education. How can we teach kids to be, to love languages? So it's a big topic, and very pleased we did that. Thanks very much to Lindsay, of course, for coming on the show. Now, without any further ado, we're going to dive into a non-question. Okay, this is from Sebastian in Colombia. He doesn't actually ask a question, but I've actually managed to draw a question out of what he recorded, because I think it's important and could be very helpful to you guys. So, here's Sebastian.
Hi, Olly. How are you today? This is Sebastian, and I'm from Colombia. I want to say thank you very much for the podcast and also for the blog posts. I find them fascinating, very useful. It's helped me a lot to save my time with the language learning, especially with the Anki thing, the flashcard thing. It's one of the most important things that you can do with language learning. Also, I do self-talking. I know it's a bit crazy. I'm a weirdo of any kind, but anyway. So I find it so convenient because you can think in the language all the time, so you don't forget it, even though you don't have the chance to speak to native speakers. So that's how I can keep my English up a bit, by talking to myself and also by shadowing audios. For example, you might know, I'm sure you know Luke's English podcast, so I shadow those kinds of audios. That's how I can practice my speaking skill. Also, thank you very much. It's been fascinating, and all the best with the podcast and everybody out there. Goodbye.
Hey Sebastian, well, thank you very much for leaving the message. Again, I'm not sure whether you planned to ask a question and then forgot, or exactly what happened. But I wanted to take what you said anyway, because you mentioned a couple of things I think are really important, and I'd just like to take a second to talk about them a little bit. And for those of you listening who maybe don't get as much speaking practice as you like in the language you're learning, which, let's face it, is probably most people, here are two things that can be very, very helpful. And so the two things that Sebastian mentioned were self-talk and shadowing. Now, self-talk is literally when you just talk to yourself. And, as Sebastian said, you will look a bit crazy if you're doing it on the street. But if you think about it, there's no difference really between you talking to somebody and giving your opinion and then you talking to the wall and giving your opinion. It's the same kind of thing, right? And when you consider that speaking is all about taking the stuff that you're learning, the words that you know and the grammar that you know how to use, and kind of combining it all in a coherent sentence, getting your opinions across, using the things at your disposal to say what you want to say, a lot of it comes down to practice. Now, obviously, ideally, it's best to practice with a real person. But there are advantages to doing it by yourself as well, because you don't get interrupted. You don't have that pressure of responding in real time. You can take your time to think about things and think about words. And so in general, self-talk is a very useful thing to do. And it's something that every single person listening to this podcast can start doing literally right now. It's just a question of being mindful of that that's what you want to do, and actually, inserting it into your day. Now, I think it's helpful to have a little bit of structure for this, because it's all very well for me to say, you should self-talk. But then I also said there's a million other things you should be doing, right? So, the first thing is to recognize that just talking to yourself in the language is something you can do throughout the day. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, the most simple way to go about it, I think, is literally to take an approach of describing the things that you see. And this is something that I heard a lot from Richard Simcott when we've done the polyglot workshops together. Something that he's talked about a lot is this thing of literally just describing what's going on. So now I'm walking down the street. Now I'm looking at some trees. Now I'm walking into a room. Now I'm turning on the light switch. Oh, isn't the light bright in here? This kind of thing. It sounds silly, right? But it's all very everyday stuff that has, very strong connection to the kind of things you'll want to say in real life. So if you can kind of narrate your day to yourself as you're going along, it's a very, very useful thing. Now, another thing that I've done in the past with students from my time control course, which is all about time management and kind of learning efficiently and making progress when you don't have huge amounts of time to study. One of the things that I ask people to do is to set short-term goals. And so, for example, you might be traveling abroad this summer, and let's say you're going to Italy, for example, and one of your goals is to be able to order food in a restaurant. And, all you really need to do is to actually practice the phrases you need to order. So like, can I have the menu, please? I'd like to have this. My wife will have this. I would like this for the kids. Can we sit by the window? Whatever. All these kind of phrases that can be learned fairly easily. And what you can do is you can set yourself little triggers. So, for example, if you want to practice ordering food, then you can say to yourself, okay, every time I'm at home and I open the fridge, I'm going to order in my mind, or out loud rather, but obviously to an imaginary person, I'm going to practice ordering that food from the fridge. So, if you get some tomatoes from the fridge, you could practice using the phrases you've learned and saying, I'd like some tomatoes, please, in Italian. And of course, you can make it increasingly complicated. My wife would like some tomatoes, please. And so that every time you eat, which is obviously many times a day, you can actually use that as a trigger to practice the phrases that you're learning in Italian. So do you see how you can kind of link up? If you set a very specific target like that, then you can link your daily activities to your goals, and then you can practice them regularly. It takes a bit of thought, but if you can take the time to think about it, then you can find all these opportunities throughout your day to practice speaking and using the language in a way that actually links up to your goals. So, as a quick exercise for everybody, I just encourage you to think, what is something that you'd really like to be able to do in your target language over the next few weeks? Something very small. Is it like, I'd like to be able to order food in a restaurant? I'd like to be able to describe the weather. Think about what that is. Just pick something. And then think how you can integrate that into your day. So what could be a trigger in your day whereby every time you see something, that's a trigger for you to then practice saying that thing. Does that make sense? And then just by doing that many times a day, within a week, you'll very quickly be confident saying this stuff. And, you've upgraded your language skills very, very quickly. So self-talk is, hugely important. And I'm sure I'm not alone in noticing that Sebastian's got a very, very good British English accent. Now, I don't know what your background is, Sebastian, but, your accent's phenomenal, really. And I don't know whether that has to do with the fact that you do a lot of self-talk, but I imagine it's related. And also to the second thing that you mentioned, which is shadowing. Now, what Sebastian said was that he likes shadowing podcasts in particular. Now, shadowing, for those of you who don't know, is simply when you have a script in front of you and you listen to the recording and you practice reading that script at the same time as the speaker. It's quite hard to do, actually, because it's happening quite fast. And this is something that, to be honest, I don't do much of, actually. It's not something that I really enjoy. However, the times that I have done it, it's been very useful. And the reason that shadowing is good is because it forces you to do a number of things. So first of all, it trains your muscles for a start. So if you're not used to speaking fast, then shadowing just gives you the experience of what it's like to speak fast, to speak like a native. We've covered this concept before in the podcast of glimpses of mastery, and this is a little bit what shadowing does. It kind of allows you to sit in the shoes of the native speaker a little bit and feel what that's like to speak at that speed. So that helps train your muscles and to kind of build you up to that point. But also, you've got to be thinking ahead, and you've got to be looking ahead at what's coming up. So, for example, if you're following along a podcast transcript, you can't read and speak at the same time. You have to be reading ahead of what you say, so that when it comes time to say it, you are able to do it. So that in many ways mirrors the process of actually speaking a language. Having to think a little bit ahead of what you're saying. So yeah, there you go. Shadowing and self-talk, a couple of very, very interesting things that you guys could try out. It's not for everybody, but there might be a few of you out there who are thinking of trying to find ways of integrating a little bit more speaking into your day-to-day life, and these would be two great ways of doing that. So if you would like to ask me a question, or even a non-question like Sebastian did, you can. I like to get questions. We've got a bit of a queue at the moment, so get in now, and that way hopefully you'll get the question answered sometime before Christmas. And the place to do that is iwillteachyoualanguage.com/ask. Now, super exciting. In a few days' time, I'm going to Thailand. I'm going to Bangkok, and I have decided to enroll in a Thai course. I'm going to do 2 weeks of intensive Thai study. Now, this is not my typical way of studying. I don't like school, I don't like classes, and I don't like really studying intensively either. So it's going to be a new experience for me. And I'm going with a friend of mine, Jan, from the Netherlands. And we're going to be studying in different ways. So I'm going to be going to school, and he's going to be doing self-study. And we're going to be making lots of videos and documenting that whole process. So if you'd like to follow along, then we are doing loads of cool things for you to do that. First place is Instagram, which is for young people, apparently, but I'm using it. So if you like Instagram, or even if you don't, Instagram would be a great place to follow, because we're going to be able to take lots of pictures and videos around Bangkok. And to follow me on Instagram, then you should go to, well, if you've got the app, you can just search for I Will Teach You a Language, and you'll find me there. If you're on the web, then you can go to instagram.com/I Will Teach You a Language, all one word, and then you'll be able to follow me there. We're going very soon, so do that now so that you don't miss a thing. Also, we're going to be putting videos on YouTube, so if you're not following me already on YouTube, I post regular videos there, actually, so it might be interesting for you guys, and you can simply go to YouTube, and the address of my channel is IWTYAL. So it's I Will Teach You a Language, but just the letters. So youtube.com/IWTYAL. Or if you have the YouTube app, you can just search for Olly Richards and subscribe to my channel. That way you're going to follow everything. All right, I hope that was useful, and I'll see you in the next episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, and here at Story Learning, everything that I do is powered by stories, whether that's writing books, teaching lessons, crafting courses. My mission is to help everyone succeed at learning a new language through the power of story, and we now have comprehensive language courses in over 15 languages, from Spanish to French, Korean to Japanese, and across all levels from beginner to mastery. And you can take a 7-day free trial of any of these programs by visiting storylearning.com/courses. I've poured my heart and soul into creating these courses over the last 10 or so years, and we've helped tens of thousands of new students achieve their dreams of learning a new language, all through the power of story. So go ahead and take a free trial. There's no commitment. You can try out our method for free, see if this can also be the breakthrough for you that it's been for so many other people. storylearning.com/courses.